Hello everyone. Today we step into the world of cosmic mysteries, a place where science meets the unknown, and where a single signal from the depths of space has left humanity questioning whether we are truly alone in the universe. This is the story of the WOW signal, a strange and powerful message picked up by a radio telescope in 1977, a signal so extraordinary that it shook astronomers and continues to puzzle scientists more than 4 decades later. Was it an accidental burst of energy from space, or was it a deliberate transmission from an intelligent civilization beyond Earth? To understand the mystery of the WOW signal, we must first look at the context of its discovery. In the mid-20th century, humans had just entered the space age. We had launched satellites, landed on the moon, and built powerful instruments to explore the universe. Among these efforts was SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, a scientific project dedicated to listening for signals from advanced civilizations. The idea was simple but profound. If intelligent beings exist somewhere out there, perhaps they too are sending out signals into the cosmos, signals we might be able to detect with the right technology. One of the facilities at the forefront of this search was the Big Ear Radio Telescope in Ohio, operated by Ohio State University. The Big Ear wasn't designed originally for hunting aliens. It was a radio observatory used for mapping radio sources in the sky, but by the 1970s, it had been adapted for SETI experiments. Its massive antennas were perfect for scanning large portions of the sky, and its instruments were sensitive enough to pick up faint signals from the stars. On August 15, 1977, the Big Ear was quietly doing its job, sweeping through the cosmos, listening to radio waves. For most of the time, the signals it detected were nothing unusual. Background noise, emissions from stars, static from galaxies, and the occasional interference from human-made sources like satellites. But that night, something extraordinary happened. As the telescope scanned near the constellation Sagittarius, it picked up a strong, narrowband radio signal, something that stood out sharply against the cosmic background. The signal lasted for 72 seconds, the exact length of time the Big Ear could focus on one patch of the sky before Earth's rotation carried it onward. The intensity of the signal was unlike anything recorded before, and it matched the kind of transmission SETI researchers had long hoped to find: strong, narrow, and seemingly artificial. When astronomer Jerry Amon reviewed the computer printouts a few days later, he noticed the unusual spike of data. To highlight its significance, he circled it in red ink and wrote a single word in the margin: "Wow." That exclamation would become the name of the most famous and mysterious radio signal ever detected from space. The WOW signal was represented on the printout as a sequence of numbers and letters, 6 equage 5. To most people, this code looks meaningless, but to astronomers, it described the strength of the signal. Each character represented a level of intensity, with letters standing for values above 9. The U, in the middle, represented an incredibly strong peak, far beyond typical background noise. In fact, the WOW signal was about 30 times stronger than the usual cosmic radio signals Big Ear picked up. But here's the mystery: the signal appeared only once. It was never detected again, despite repeated attempts to search the same region of the sky. For 72 seconds, it was as if the universe whispered a secret directly into our instruments, and then it went silent. Scientists immediately began debating the origin of the WOW signal. Some believed it might have been a natural phenomenon, perhaps a burst of radiation from a comet, star, or other celestial object. Others pointed out that the narrow frequency of the signaler, around 1420 MHz, was significant. This frequency corresponds to the natural emission line of hydrogen, the most abundant element in the universe. SETI researchers had long speculated that if an alien civilization wanted to send a message across the stars, they might use the hydrogen line as a kind of universal calling card. To them, the fact that the WOW signal appeared at this frequency was not coincidence. It was potential evidence of intelligence. Still, skepticism was strong. Radio telescopes are vulnerable to interference from human-made sources, such as satellites, airplanes, or even ground-based transmissions. Could the WOW signal have been nothing more than a stray radio signal bouncing around Earth? Some argued that this was unlikely, as the signal had all the hallmarks of a deep space origin. Its strength rose and fell in a way consistent with the telescope's motion across the sky, not the random behavior of terrestrial interference. Over the years, astronomers tried repeatedly to detect the WOW signal again. The Big Ear and other telescopes pointed back at the same patch of sky in Sagittarius, hoping for a repeat, but nothing like it was ever recorded again. The silence only deepened the mystery. Was the WOW signal a one-time message sent intentionally, or was it a cosmic event that happened only once in billions of years? For Jerry Amon himself, the man who discovered the signal, caution was key. Though he was thrilled by the discovery, he never claimed it was proof of aliens. Instead, he stressed the need for more evidence and the importance of scientific skepticism. Yet, despite his careful words, the WOW signal became a cultural phenomenon. It appeared in documentaries, books, and even fictional stories, fueling public imagination about the possibility of alien contact. To this day, the WOW signal remains unexplained. Some recent studies have suggested that a comet passing through the region at the time could have been the source, emitting hydrogen signals that Big Ear detected. But this theory has its critics, who argue that comets are unlikely to produce such a strong narrowband transmission. Others believe the signal might have come from a deep space object or even a technological source beyond Earth. What makes the WOW signal so compelling is its combination of mystery and possibility. It is neither completely dismissed as interference nor fully embraced as alien contact. It sits in the gray zone, an unsolved riddle that challenges our understanding of the universe. For scientists, it is a reminder of how little we know about the cosmos. For dreamers, it is a tantalizing hint that we might not be alone. The WOW signal remains one of the most debated mysteries in astronomy, not because we lack data, but because we have so little of it. 72 seconds of radio noise is hardly enough to rewrite humanity's understanding of the universe, and yet it is enough to inspire endless speculation. To understand why it has endured in our imagination, we need to explore the competing explanations in detail. One of the most discussed possibilities is the comet hypothesis. In 2017, researchers suggested that a pair of comets 266P/Christensen and 335P/Gibbs were near the region of the sky where the WOW signal was detected in 1977. Comets can emit hydrogen as their icy surfaces evaporate, and hydrogen resonates at the same frequency as the WOW signal. The idea is that the Big Ear telescope may have simply picked up a natural burst from a comet's hydrogen cloud. On the surface, this sounds plausible. However, critics point out several problems. First, comets typically produce broad, weak signals, not the sharp, narrowband spike observed in the WOW signal. Second, the comets in question were not documented at the time, and some astronomers argue they weren't even in the right position to explain the data. Thus, while interesting, the comet theory has not gained universal acceptance. Another explanation involves terrestrial interference. Radio telescopes are constantly bombarded by signals from Earth itself. Military radars, communication satellites, aircraft transponders, even microwave ovens near observatories. Could the WOW signal have been a reflection of some human-made transmission? Proponents of this theory argue that it is possible, but others push back strongly. The WOW signal's strength curve matched what would be expected if the telescope was tracking a signal moving with the sky, not a random Earth-based source. Furthermore, if it were interference, why did it never repeat when most terrestrial sources are persistent? Then comes the most tantalizing possibility, that the WOW signal was a deliberate transmission from an extraterrestrial intelligence. Supporters of this idea argue that the signal's characteristics are exactly what one might expect if aliens were trying to make contact. It was narrowband, it came from the direction of deep space, and it occurred near the hydrogen line, the universal frequency SETI researchers had long speculated about. The fact that it lasted 72 seconds The precise window of Big Ear's observing capability only adds to the intrigue. If intelligent beings wanted to announce their presence, what better way than to use a frequency and method that would stand out to scientists? But if that is the case, why did the signal not repeat? This is the core mystery. Some suggest that it was a one-time beacon, sent out like a cosmic flare in hopes someone might notice. Others propose that the signal was part of a repeating cycle, but we simply missed it because we weren't listening at the right time. Still others believe the source may have moved or gone silent, like a lighthouse beam that sweeps past only briefly. The WOW's signal has not only influenced astronomy, it has shaped culture. For many, it symbolizes the tantalizing possibility of contact with other civilizations. It has appeared in documentaries, novels, and even television shows, often portrayed as the closest humanity has come to hearing from aliens. The single word "wow," scrawled in red ink, has become iconic, representing the mixture of wonder and frustration that defines our search for cosmic company. For scientists, however, the WOW signal is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it demonstrates the value of projects like SETI, proving that extraordinary discoveries can come from simply listening. On the other hand, it highlights the fragility of evidence. One signal, never repeated, cannot serve as proof of anything. In science, repeatability is key. Without more data, the WOW signal sits forever on the boundary between discovery and anomaly. Over the decades, SETI has expanded its efforts, using more powerful telescopes, wider frequency ranges, and faster computing power. Facilities like the Green Bank Telescope and the Allen Telescope Array have taken up the search, scanning billions of radio channels for any hint of unusual signals. Yet none have matched the WOW signal's strength and clarity. This raises two haunting possibilities. Either the universe is far quieter than we hoped, or we are simply not listening in the right way. Some researchers suggest that extraterrestrial civilizations, if they exist, might not use radio at all. They might communicate with technologies beyond our imagination, lasers, neutrinos, or methods we cannot yet conceive. If so, the WOW signal might have been a rare overlap, a brief moment when alien methods intersected with our limited capabilities. If true, it means contact could be rare not because the universe is empty, but because we are blind to most of its messages. There is also a deeper philosophical layer. The WOW signal challenges our assumptions about isolation. If we are alone, then the WOW signal was simply a cosmic coincidence, a meaningless burst of natural energy. But if we are not alone, then it may have been the first handshake across the stars, an invitation we failed to answer. That possibility is both thrilling and haunting. For Jerry Amon, the man who first noticed the signal, the experience was bittersweet. He spent years cautioning the public against jumping to conclusions, even as the world embraced the WOW signal as a symbol of alien contact. His careful scientific approach reminds us that mysteries must be met with patience, not certainty. And yet, his single red, circled note ensured that the WOW signal would live forever in human memory. Even today, astronomers continue to revisit the region of Sagittarius, where the signal was detected. They listen, they analyze, they hope. The silence since 1977 does not erase the event. It only deepens its significance. After all, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Somewhere in the universe, perhaps signals are still being sent, waiting for us to tune in at the right time. The WOW signal remains unsolved not because we lack theories, but because we lack closure. It is a reminder that the universe is vast, mysterious, and filled with secrets we have only begun to uncover. Whether it was a comet, interference, or a message from intelligent life, the WOW signal keeps us asking the most important question: are we alone? And maybe, just maybe, that was the point all along.